Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our UDPaaS webinar series. This webinar's focus is going to be on reimagining grants management. This session is being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now, let me introduce you to our UDPaaS platform. Our UDPaaS solution supports a complete software development framework to which you can build no-code, low-code, no-code custom applications from scratch. These products can be customized and configured through adding fields, workflows, dashboards, and an array of different UDPaaS objects. The products can also be extended with custom modules. For example, the UDPaaS Grants Management module can be extended to include a custom contracts module, or you can customize through composable pre-built modules such as Budget Manager to track a hierarchy of budget balance, or Review Manager to manage committee reviews and application scoring. The third and the last deployment option is out of the box. UDPaaS products such as applicant tracking with an initial setup of business rules, policies, and branding with logos is all that is needed. The platform is supported by a product store where we have a library of software as a service offerings. We have Case Management System, a solution to manage cases such as employee complaints, legal cases, medical claims, and all the activities that surround the case, such as approvals, investigations, and ongoing monitoring. Next product is applicant tracking. This allows drafting and managing job requisitions. The applicant process includes resume and candidate information submission. We also have grants management. It supports the complete grant lifecycle from program definition, application intake, review, grant award to progress reporting and impact analysis. The fourth product is forecast management. It manages and tracks your organization's forecasts of opportunities and awards in a single repository where contract representatives, program managers, and other stakeholders can collaborate. Today's webinar is focusing on grants management. UDPaaS can support the traditional grants making process like this one. Granting organizations identify funds from incoming sources, such as donors, government funding, or other grants. These funds are organized into budget areas such as years of funding cycles. UDPaaS is flexible enough to allow budget management and distribution in various ways. As funding is secured, UDPaaS allows you to define programs and create opportunities for applicants to apply. UDPaaS allows open cycles and also targeted invitations for potential applicants. Applicants then can create and submit their applications through a separate grantee portal. This portal also provides access to payments and reports after awards. Applications are then reviewed by internal staff and then external reviewers. Review scores can then be aggregated and analyzed as input to the award decision. As grants are awarded, grant managers can schedule payments, reports, and track award amounts and other metrics against predefined goals. This entire grants management process is customizable and configurable to suit your grants making needs and specific business processes. Here are some common areas for improvements we see in the grants management space. For example, UDPaaS can better manage your agency's grants budget by tracking balances and adjustments. UDPaaS can track metrics and measure success of your social impact. The flexibility of reporting in UDPaaS allows you to better collect data for compliance reporting purposes. And ultimately, UDPaaS allows you to store all of your grant data in a single source throughout the grant making process. Now, let me highlight some UDPaaS features for you. UDPaaS utilizes workflow which triggers automatic notifications, also generate documents, change status, and update field values automatically. So if an application needs revision, staff can simply push a button, a notification will send to a grantee, and the grantee can log in to update their application. You will also have the ability to validate specific fields by making certain fields mandatory or customizing the validations. For example, when a request amount went over predefined thresholds, the system can show a warning that the number needs to be modified. These validations can be configured to suit your needs. UDPaaS can sum values, calculate averages, create budget tables with more advanced capabilities. We have internal and external roles that will give different permissions to limit access to certain data to further control visibility. UDPaaS can also handle specific visibility conditions on fields of the forms. In addition, UDPaaS has availability to connect modules for enhanced reporting and data sharing. Now, let me show you how UDPaaS can benefit you through our features. One of the greatest benefits is the real-time visibility. In this example, that all users who have access to a budget in the system, including grants and finance staff, have the ability to see updates and act accordingly. You can also manage budgets by allocating money to different programs. The first chart here shows a unique way to visualize your expenditures by tracking from the budget to the fund level and ultimately to the grants tied to those funds. Here we have the second example. This is the program record showing a split screen view of its connected budget areas. Also, this is an opportunity to have everything in a single place. Often there's data in many different places. Emails, reports, spreadsheets, database, and everywhere. But with the UDPaaS platform, you can find everything in one place. Staff with similar roles can step in the minute's notice if a team member is unavailable, so they can access the data and continue the work. UDPaaS also allows you to manage the grant lifecycle efficiently and effectively. UDPaaS has a variety of visualizations and shortcuts to make it easy for users to see progress or summarize data in your dashboard. UDPaaS allows agencies to customize dashboards that present data. You can track grants by status, by program, and present this data in useful charts that allows you to drill down and click through to the specific records. Many times, organizations want to know how their grants impact the communities. From our platform, you can allocate your spending to specific programs within your given community and use charts and other visualizations to measure the impact of your grant dollars. As you can see here, UDPaaS offers geographic tools to show you the impact area on the map or list view of details. You can view grant data within a specified geographical area and zoom in or out to see your impact within a community or at a state or even national level. You can also click through the specific records from the map or the list to see the data related to a specific grant. Why UDPaaS? First, we are FedRAMP certified to the moderate level and ready to employ and deploy it immediately. UDPaaS protects the agency's data where the loss of confidentiality, integrity, or availability could be expected to have a serious adverse effect on operations, assets, or individual information. These are all protected with encryption. Second, UDPaaS is very easily customized and extendable. We offer a range of composable pre-built modules and also the ability to create new modules to fit your agency's specific needs. We can also connect modules together to create complete enterprise solutions. Agencies can deploy within weeks to months rather than years at a much faster and more efficient pace. Last but not least, UDPaaS is a low-code solution with no-code capabilities. Grants managers and subject matter experts with little or no software experience can easily change configuration settings to customize their forms and workflows. From what you're about to see in a demo, only about 3% of it can be considered code. Everything else is configurable by non-technical staff with minimal training. UDPaaS also offers audit log history at the field level to track changes made to data, generate documents, or send notifications to applicants and staff. Advanced search and reporting are the core of the product. These features can help staff manage grants more easily and efficiently. Now, a live demonstration of UDPaaS Grants Management System.
What we'll do is we'll do a quick walkthrough of the UDPaaS grant product, and we'll go through the different pages and the different capabilities in a typical grant management lifecycle order. So we'll start with some registration and application intake capabilities, where we can do eligibility checking, and you can take a look at the grantee portal. We also have a review process where internal as well as external reviewers can review grants. And there's a lot of features associated with that. And then finally, once we review and we make decisions, we can award a grant, and we have capabilities to generate grant agreements and how to monitor the grants as they are being executed through progress reports and all types of compliance type reports. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and let's go ahead and dive right into the product. So what we have here is the UDPaaS grants landing page, right? You're going to hear this from me quite a bit, but everything that you see on this page is customizable. So these images in the background, the logos, the color schemes are all customizable to your liking. And of course, you can have a nice introduction here with maybe some photographs and things like that. Now, in my demo, I'm going to be logging in as myself, and I am going to be the grant administrator for this fictitious organization that I'm going to show you some of the capabilities in. So a couple things just to note on the page is there is a registration capability. So this landing page can be used for internal staff that are managing grants, but also your grantees. So the registration process allows organizations or individuals that have not registered to apply for a grant, allows them to register, and you have an option to approve people logging into the system. So let me go ahead and click login and go ahead and get started. Now, when you log in, every user is defined a role. So I'm the grant administrator, and this is my, if you will, grantee portal, or grant portal and my dashboard. So over here on the left, I have access to all the contacts or all the people records that are in the system, all the organizations that I work with, certainly all the grantee organizations and things like that. Also, as an administrator, I have to manage all the different funds. So if I'm an organization that has multiple funding sources, I would manage my funds in this area. Application management is where all the individual grant records are being stored. So there's a way to get to that as well. And these are all the grantee applications and any kind of supporting documentation and related records associated with that. And then finally, UDPaaS has a capability to monitor and manage goals. So we may set aside certain outcomes that we expect with our different programs, and we have an ability to measure against those outcomes to see how well we're doing, or see how well our funds are making a positive impact in society. So let's go ahead and start walking through some of the different widgets here. So these are your typical graphs that you can see, and all these graphs you can download into a PNG format so that you can present to them. But these graphs are dynamic, and what's kind of nice about it, if I can, for example, if I do not want to see New York and I want to eliminate Kansas, they should be disappearing. I'm sorry. There was Georgia. I got rid of Ohio. So you can see how the graph changes, and then you can get a different picture, maybe download it to a PNG and put it into a PowerPoint presentation. So it's kind of a nice way of looking and presenting data. So this is grants by different states, and these so happen to be awarded grants. Now, one of the things too is I'll go into, you can drill down as well. So I'm going to drill down to Ohio, and you can see that there's 3 grants that are associated with Ohio. And what I wanted to do is just highlight one of these, and this is grant 1524. This is a particular grant application called Cure for Cancer, and this is actually the grant application record. And we'll go through this in a bit, but I did want to show you some sort of capabilities that you can do on this particular form. So notice that this grant is in a draft status, right? And I have all these other different types of statuses that are under reviewed, approved, declined, and withdrawn, and things like that. But I can also see the history of how long these grants have been in the system. Now, keep in mind that this is a demo system, so the data might be a little out of sync, but you can see that for 12.97 days, the grant record sat in an internal draft mode. It sat 100 days in draft. It was sitting and submitted for 20 days, and it's been approved for 238 days. So this is a nice graphic of showing you how this grant has progressed over a period of time. So let's go back to the graph, to the dashboards again. Here on this axis here, I have all the different grant programs. So if I wanted to drill down and look at all the education grants, I can see that I have 145K worth of grants, and these are the individual grants that are associated with my education program. And again, like any grant widget, you can download to a PNG file, and you can go back and look at the data. Now, if I ever want to look at the details of the data, I can look at it this way by looking at a sum and seeing all the detailed amounts. This is what makes up each bar. Or if I want to literally view all the data that's associated with that grant, I can do that as well. Now, coming back over here, we have these, what we like to call shortcuts. So if I want to see these 125K worth of grants, of course, I can drill down and I see those grants that have all been awarded, and they're all education. Notice that the logo is green with a scholar hat because it's an education grant. So we can quickly denote those. So I'll go over here in disaster relief grants, and you see that I have another logo that's green, but it's a different sort of logo. All right. Okay, so let's go on and move on a little bit further along the lines. So what I want to do is show you a little bit about the organization module of the system. So I'll go over here and click organizations, and there's one particular organization I'd like to show you is the American Association of School Administrators. So this is the area to which I capture all the information I need to capture about a particular organization. So one of the things I wanted to show you is in UDPaaS, data is connected to all kinds of data. So there's lots of analytics here. So we have the organization information in the middle, and on the left here, I have related information to the organization. So for example, I can see that there's lots of activity associating with this with this organization. It looks like there's a number of emails that were sent. There was a request submitted email, an application decision email, and all those sorts of things. So if you want to look at the details of that, I can see that the email was received, the status, the date that it was sent, and down here on the bottom is actually the content of the email. So not only do we have activities associated with the organization, we have contacts. So you see we have Karen and Tony here that are two people in the organization. So if I want to find out information about Karen, I can go into here and look at all kinds of information about Karen, including her emergency contact details. Even can collect data about her volunteer activity that she's been working on. Now, what's probably more interesting for most of you is this organization looks like they submitted 11 grants. So these are all the grants that they've submitted. Looks like there's a whole bunch in draft. There's some that are improved, some that are submitted, some that are brand new to the organization. So this is a nice way of looking at your information. Now, one of the things too with UDPaaS, it's integrated in a lot of different ways. So for example, we see that this is this organization is in Avon, Connecticut. So when I click through, I actually have a Google map of Avon, of this particular organization. So I can, of course, zoom out and I can zoom in. And then, of course, I can open it up and show you different types of views of this. So I can drill in and out. I'm using my scroll bar and my mouse so you can see that this organization is near a middle school, near a church, things like that. All right, so let's go back to the map. So that is the Google integration capability within the organization. All right, so now let's dive into the actual application. So I'm going to start here, and this is a particular grant. I have an education grant here from that same organization, and they submitted a grant associated with science lab renovation. So it looks like they're doing some renovation work at this particular school. So again, in the middle is all of my information about the grant. And we're going to pop through some of these screens, but these are different tabs of fields that I'm capturing with this organization, right? And we'll go through some of those in a bit. But again, on the left side is all the related information associated with this particular grant record. And then over here on the right, if I open up this, what we call the right pane or the doc, I can actually see notes. So you can see here that Karen, who is the grantee or the applicant, had some questions about the budget. And then the internal administrator responded to that person. And then it looks like she has yet even more questions. So if I wanted to add a note, I'll say, read the instructions. If they do not help, please call me. I can click save, and there goes another note that goes into the system. All right, so that's enough with that. Oh, the other thing too is the information. You can also see information about this grant too. You can see there's 3 reviews that were done with this grant. There's a couple of payment records that are associated with the grant as well. So this is the left and the right pane is to get to all of that related grant information. So let's go in and dive into some of these fields here. So you can see I have some long text fields that provide a user to input lots of text. Okay, there is the needs and purposes tab. And again, remember that all of these tabs and all of these fields are 100% customizable. So clearly your application form can look very differently than this particular form, okay? So here's an interesting one. There's a little button here that holds a table, and these are the types of people that are participating in their particular grant. So what I have showing here is an advanced data table that allows us to choose the different types of students that we're working with and the total number of people that we plan to serve. So for example, if I wanted to add the third grade to this, I could add the third grade and say we're going to work with them directly. I'm going to only work with 125 of these guys. And I'll go ahead and save that. And you notice that the calculation went up to 1481. So these are all advanced data tables. It's a great way of capturing information regarding the grantee. So let me close this table. A little bit about implementation plan. So this is another milestone. So I have yet another advanced data table, works very similar to the previous one. I have checkbox fields. So these are all the different types of things that this grant is impacting. And these are the types of services that they're providing. I'll go over to the budget table because that's kind of interesting. So again, we use the budget table. And you can see that our budget table is fairly complicated, where you can add different types of sources, descriptions, the dates, and the value of the budget, and we're tracking expenses. So these are called dynamic tables, and notice that there's some instructions that's customizable that you would put in your particular instructions for the end user to edit. Of course, there's all kinds of ways of adding attachments. You can add any number of attachments. I can have limitations on file sizes. I can ensure that I'm getting an XLS or a spreadsheet file or a PDF. Lots of different things that you can do with attachments, including notifying people internally in the organization when a file is uploaded. Now, I've shown you a lot of the fields, and there's plenty more to show you, but I've been looking at the field under Kenny Liu. And remember, Kenny is the grant administrator for this fictitious organization. But Karen is the applicant. So I wanted to give you a view of what the applicant sees. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of these features in UDPaaS called emulation mode. And let me quickly show you how that works. I'm going to go to Karen Lee's record. And I know Karen is inside my contacts module, so I'm going to go ahead and view that record, and there's the information about Karen. But the nice feature I was talking to you about is called emulate. So what's happening, I'm logging off as Kenny, and I'm logging in as Karen. So now I'm Karen. Karen is in a role called applicant, so her view is very different than my view. So here's some information about Karen. She can update her profile, change passwords, and things like that. These are the opportunities that Karen can apply for. So you can see that, notice that some of them are not, the call is not open. And the reason why is because the grant program was closed in September of 2021. But notice that this one that has not expired, she can actually apply. So once she clicks the apply button, she literally gets some eligibility questions, and then she can actually apply for the particular grant. If she just wants to take a look about it and just wants to read about this one, she can click the program review and she'll get some information about that. And then probably since Karen's in the middle of her grant, this is all the grants that she is working on. So she had one grant that has been approved, this grant number 1540. She's submitted 2 of them, and she has 7 of them in draft. And this 1537 was the grant record that we were just looking at. So if I click through, I see a very similar page that I saw as the administrator, but notice that I don't have access to as much information as I did before, because this is the only information that I want Karen to see, and I only want her to update this data. Those other tabs that we saw, I did not want her to touch those. But once Karen's done, you know, she's submitted, she's ready to submit the application, she can also use the UDPaaS document generation feature and actually produce a printout of the particular grant. Now notice that this grant I can print, I can actually edit, I can email it, I can export it. I can also send it for e-signature. So I can also enable this and send it to DocuSign or some of the other popular e-signature systems that are products that are out in the marketplace. Okay, so enough with the grantee view or the applicant view. So I'm going to go end this session. And I want to change gears just a bit. And one of the things I wanted to show you was going back to Karen's record. I can go back and look at the 11 applications that she submitted and go to 1537, which is the grant that we were working with, and I'm back to her grant record. So I wanted to show you a few things with the grant. So obviously after a grant is submitted, we often do reviews. So I have 3 reviews set up, and I have Dominique here, and she has to fill out this review form. So I have a rubric review scoring system here. So I have, text that she can input and all kinds of questions in here. So I'm not going to go into details there. I'll go ahead and click Save Draft. One of the things I wanted to highlight that's very popular when we're doing reviews is to show history. So you notice when I show history, I can see how this score has changed over time. So it started off as a 0, went 5, 4, 3. So a lot of indecisiveness of how to evaluate this particular grant. So that is, so this is the grant review form that I wanted to show you. And also with the grant review form, we often take advantage of the notes feature because we want to write notes to each other as we're looking at these grants. Now, so actually I'm going to go back into the review. Now, one thing that's really helpful when you're doing reviews is I'm going to use the emulation mode and log in as Dominique. And Dominique's going to see a different view now, right? Because she is just a reviewer. So she sees completed reviews on the right, assigned reviews on the left. So if she wants to go into the review form that she was supposed to look at, she would look at it here, right? And see the view. But maybe she wants to see the application that's associated with the review. So she can go to the review application on the left and read the text and actually generate the scores as she's navigating through the different pages of the application. So that's what we like to call split review. And again, document generation capability, we like to generate the PDF, and here is the PDF and her results of the particular score. All right, so we're just moving along here, going back to the application. So let's go back to the application and do a quick time check. We're not doing too bad. Payments, there's always payments that are associated with the grantee, and there's different payment records. So oftentimes we see this integrated with financial management systems or maybe sending direct deposits to banks for payments. The grant agreement, this is a nice feature within the system where this accommodates the way we structured this grant agreement. There are certain paragraphs in the grant agreement that we want to be dynamic in the system. So that's what these are. And notice again, I have history turned on these fields. So if I make a small change to this grant, I click save, I can actually see the net changes that were made to the particular grant. You see the DDD that I added into the grant. Again, so when you want to generate the grant agreement, you just simply click the standard, and there is the grant agreement. Now, this is just a very simple one that we mocked up, and you can send it to e-signature. So the advantage of e-signature, it goes out to the e-signature product. They sign it, once they receive the email, and the document automatically gets uploaded. So there's no more of the handoffs, the downloads and the uploads and signing and scanning of documents. It automatically comes right back into the right back into the record. All right, moving on. Let's go back to the grant record and show you more things at the program level, or what I like to call the organization level. Now, this grant record that we've been working with is associated with a particular fund, right? And that fund is associated with the Education Sustainability 2021 project. And this fund has 200K in the balance. And so far, these 11 grants that are associated here, we've only used 38% of the fund. So that's kind of a nice way of looking at things. And so if I wanted to look at those 11 allocated grants, here they are. These are the 11 grants. And notice here's Karen Lee's grant that we've been working with pretty much the whole time. So that's a really nice feature within the within showing the funding amounts and all the grants that are allocated in the same fund. Another item I like to show is budget managers, because some of us have complicated budget structures where UDPaaS has an ability to capture funds in a structure, and as grants are awarded and as expenses are being approved, the balances in the hierarchy are automatically decremented. Okay, so what I'm going to do is you can go into each one of these buckets of budgets or buckets of funding one at a time, but I like to look at things graphically because it's easier for me to understand. So I'm going to take a picture of donor funding and sustainability funding. So you can see that I have 1.3 million and I have 450K of funding here. So I'm going to go over here and let's find out what's available. So I got this really nice graphic here that shows me that 1.74 million, right, which is of course 100% of the funding, 78% is coming from donors, and 22% is coming from the sustainability fund. Now, if I wanted to look at the donor funding, we broke it down further. It looks like we broke it down to individual funding, 14%, community funding, 30%. This one is 14% for operating fund, and I have the education fund at 20%. So again, as grants are awarded and expenditures are approved, these balances are automatically decrementing for you, and you can look at these in the way you want to look at them. So if you only wanted to look at one tree, you could look at one tree. Now, this was based off of available amount. So if I want to see how much has been paid, I can look at it this way. So you can see here, I have different grants that here. This is like the STEM Summer Camp Fund. They looks like they took 40,000 of the budget. The SAT Prep Grant is consuming 8% of the budget. Has been paid out. The demo day, we paid out $1,000 within that. So kind of a nice way of looking at budgets. And remember, this is all automatic and all kinds of adjustments can be made to each one of these grants as well. Now, what I'd like to finish up with is the geo mapping. You saw a bit and a taste of it, but this is the geo mapping capability. So as you can see here, let me go to like this organization here in Alexandria, Virginia. There is the grant, and if I wanted to click through and actually see that particular organization, I can see that organization. I can then go to the grant record and look at the grant record that's associated with that, and even go further and look at, okay, well, what did we pay them? So we can go all the way through the system through that mapping feature. Now, one of the things with the mapping feature, which is nice, you should kind of recognize the format of this because this is actually Google Maps, right? So Google Maps has what are called overlays. So if we have an overlay of, for example, of all the zip codes, we could have a zip code overlay, and you will be able to visually see which grants are in which zip codes. Or if you have some sort of political jurisdiction, or if you have school districts or whatever, whatever overlay you can overlay into the particular system. All right, so we're still doing pretty good. So I just wanted to go back, and let's get out of Dominique's record and get back to the main, and just go back to the dashboard. So with that, this concludes the demo, and the presentation. Things to know, just please remember that these dashboards are the standard dashboards. These are the standard forms that come with the system, but they are very easily customizable. As Simon was talking earlier, the low code, no code platform, the accelerated, non-technical programming is not required to make any changes to these columns, to these rows, to any of these forms are all customizable. Okay, well, with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to open the floor for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Okay, so just take a moment here to view our accreditations. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to let you know that I have opened up the microphone so that you can actually unmute yourself and ask questions. But I do see, if we could go to the questions page, Matt. Just so you have it, here is some additional contact information where you can get in touch with us if you need to. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. If you would like a copy of the slides, you can contact us at sales@udpaas.com. All right, so thank you very much. We hope to see you in future webinars and have a wonderful Friday.